We have no idea who did it.
A community that was once neatly tucked into a century of protective hills.
Our whole community has been devastated by what's took place and what's happened.
Will never be the same.
This area's never experienced anything like this, so we didn't know what to do.
Ray Reynolds has spent his life capturing moments in time. But it's that moment deep into the night of August 15th, 2002, that haunts him.
I was a neighbor. I lived across the road, saw the little girl and her dad the night before it happened. And you don't ever forget that.
Back in the day.
It's still this town's eternal mystery.
Few rocks, they haven't never figured it out yet.
Its daily question.
Wonder what chance it is to finally finding it out.
And its lingering ache between the laughter and the morning coffee.
It's just so sad that you got a child involved.
When you got the phone call, it set a different feeling inside of you.
Henry County Sheriff Lane Perry was one of the department's high-ranking officers on that night.
Something that happens to a child strikes deeper and harder.
The murder of the Short family, Michael, Mary, and their 9-year-old daughter Jennifer.
Every day I walk into my office, I think about the Short case.
Is Curtis Spence's eternal puzzle.
This case is the most frustrating case that I've ever worked on.
The filing cabinets in his office.
Oh, it's lead after lead.
Hold just a fraction of the evidence.
After lead.
I'd probably say in excess of 10,000 leads or more.
Yet still no solution.
We know that Mary went to Burger King at 11:30 and bought food.
Soon after that, someone came in, shot Michael and Mary in the head at point-blank range, and took Jennifer from her bed.
The mattress was moved about 2 inches.
But took nothing else.
That was the only thing throughout the house that showed any sign of struggle whatsoever.
They found what was left of Jennifer a few weeks after the murders thrown in this creek in North Carolina like it was trash. And it seems to be that insult to her and all of our humanity that is eating away at so many people all these years later.
How was everything?
You don't feel safe, not like you used to.
It's that kind of raw brutality.
It's so sad. Oh, yeah, it's so sad.
That won't give up its grip on the town.
To think right this close to us that could happen and a kid get gone and no clues, no nothing.
You moved here to feel safe, and now after that, you just...
Right, I don't feel safe.
Because what happened here that night is unlike anything law enforcement had seen.
There was nothing to compare it to. It was the only case like it in the whole United States on record. Of course, the first thing you start to think of in a situation like this, well, perhaps the family was into something they shouldn't have been in. We found nothing at all like that.
What everyone here has found is a common cause in their search for answers. Can this community truly heal until we figure out what happened?
We will never rest until we find who done this. We don't want the Short family to ever be forgotten.
And a determination to finally solve the puzzle that has tormented them for more than a decade. Are you confident you're going to solve this someday?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Bob Buckley.
I have to have that hope. That's why I'm still here.
Fox 8 News.
Pretty neat, huh?
Down at the end of the Pottery Highway
Have some fond memories.
lies a little town with a big past.
We have quite a unique story.
Between sips of coffee, Sue McDuffie reminisces on the town she grew up in.
I think we had more going for us back in those days.
Though she never moved. You've never lived anywhere else?
No,
Sue hasn't always lived in Robbins.
because it was Hazelneck, then Elise, then Hemp, and now it's Robinson.
Who knows what it'll be next year?
I know. Somebody comes along and helps us out, we've changed the name.
It's that third name this town had. This is where you went to school?
This was a Hemp Elementary School.
That tells of its unspoken past. So it used to say Hemp Elementary right up there?
That's right.
Soon after the hemp variety of cannabis was outlawed in the 1930s, the memory of the town of Hemp in Moore County began to fade as it changed its name to Robbins.
I've spent my life helping people in their time of need.
Until a man who ran to be the top law enforcement official in the state
But I'm ready to help lead our state.
worked to legalize it once again.
Hemp will, within 10 years, I think, be bigger than tobacco is now. It'll be $1 billion industry in the state.
Although Bob Crumley is in the hemp business,
And we'll process hemp seeds in here, we'll process hemp oil in here.
he's not in it for the money. After 3 of his close friends got cancer, this
Yeah, it is.
became personal. That's okay.
It's, when a cancer patient comes into your store and they say, Mr. Crumley, you haven't cured my cancer. Your hemp won't do that. And I said, no, it won't. He said, but I can eat now, and I don't have the pain I had yesterday. This is one of our cool products.
So Crumley's company touts everything from what it can do for your body
It's an anti-inflammatory, it's a neuroprotectant.
to what it can do for your wardrobe.
It's the strongest natural fiber known to man. The original blue jeans were not made with cotton, they were made with hemp.
Crumley and the man growing his hemp,
They look like weeds almost.
Yeah, they do. They look just like weeds.
also tout what it won't do to your brain.
I don't know if you see my sign down there or not, but you know, this is not marijuana, this is hemp.
The more they breed pot's active ingredient out, the THC,
It's a real pretty one there.
the more the good ingredient, cannabidiol, goes up.
This is your buds right here on the end. This is what your CBD oil comes out of.
That's what their company uses for its supplements, and that's what our forefathers used centuries ago. How many people do you think know the first 5 presidents grew hemp?
Very few. That's why we named our company Founders Hemp, because we knew part of what we have to do is to break the stigma.
The other part
The only machinery you'll use is in your drying process and your extracting process.
is rebuilding the knowledge of how to grow the plant.
I have looked and looked and looked, and I have not found anybody that growed this stuff that's still living. It's pretty much trial and error.
To the light.
Bob Crumley is betting that despite the golden leaf reigning for decades, the green leaf will reclaim its throne.
Where hemp grew well, then tobacco grew well, now hemp will grow well again.
Bob Buckley,
We're going full circle.
Fox 8 News.
Good morning, everybody.
It's a good morning
Welcome to the Wednesday morning prayer breakfast.
for the good word.
And if this is your first time, we want to know so we can welcome you accordingly.
For nearly all of the last 1,500 Wednesdays,
Grab a tray.
Bill Mangum has been at the Greensboro Urban Ministry before the sun was up, doing his small part
All right, you're going to serve together.
in this very big operation.
It is a triage unit for the homeless, for the hopeless.
You guys like a refill?
We meet them at the front line.
Got some cold milk here, anyone?
The people come off the street to here. We give them love. We give them a place to lay their head. We give them a shower. We give them food to eat. And then we say to them, how can we come alongside of you to help you in their homelessness? Let's begin a relationship.
Most overwhelming Wednesday is the last one of the month. This is pretty normal.
They come now from far and wide.
So we'll get folks that'll show up that somebody in some other XYZ city has given them a bus ticket and say, come to Greensboro, because they can help you.
And like the biblical story of the loaves and fish,
Got a big house this morning.
they seem to multiply.
We have 600 people coming here today that this may be their only meal.
Every single day of the year.
If we didn't get any more food in, everything you'll see here probably within 2 or 3 weeks would be gone.
2,000 volunteers keep that food moving, but the food itself costs money. And that story of Providence is indeed divine. It starts 30 years ago at this Hardee's in downtown Greensboro, where Bill met a homeless man.
And as I left the restaurant, he approached me for some money. And like most folks, I wasn't comfortable giving him money, so I reached into my wallet and I said, well, come on in, I'll buy you some breakfast.
That homeless man was Michael Saavedra, and Bill Mangum became his caretaker along with the Greensboro Urban Ministry. And if the name Bill Mangum sounds familiar, it should. He's a celebrated artist who was asked that year to do a painting for a holiday card of sorts to raise money for the ministry. This card called Not Forgotten, reminding us of the poor who Jesus said would always be with us. He even painted his friend Mike Saavedra into it, and after 15 years of doing the cards each Christmas,
I thought, why not leverage this? I mean, this has raised over $1 million for Greensboro Urban Ministry. Surely we can do it for other communities. And today, it's now in 13 cities, the honor card, and it's generated $7 million.
This year's card, called Rise Up, is the 30th he's done. Bill, Wells Fargo, and an anonymous donor underwrite the cost of production so that every penny people donate to get the cards goes to the ministries. The right thing to do, because he'll tell you these are people worth saving.
The folks that come in, they may be disheveled, they may be broken, but God loves them.
Never better illustrated than in this painting that was the 2005 honor card. Mangum met a young man suffering from AIDS who hadn't seen his parents in a decade because of his situation. So Bill decided to modify his original painting of just a house in the snow.
I scrubbed out the gate, I opened the gate up, and I started putting footsteps going up the sidewalk. And then I put the father in the door, embracing his son, and reworked it, titled it Homecoming. Now, I don't know if that ever happened.
A simple example of how faith and a little action
Welcome, my friend.
can change lives.
Hey, guys.
Bob Buckley.
Hey, good morning.
Fox 8 News.
We will be able to transform the dangling discords of our nation.
The face is immediately recognizable, even in bronze.
It's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
A man not often associated with North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm kind of soaking this in as much as I can.
I have a dream.
But for whom a decision involving Greensboro changed the world.
There's a lot of pressure to get it right.
That one day on the red hills of Georgia,
Martin Luther King Jr. had planned to be in Greensboro on April 4th of 1968. Had he kept that appointment, how different would our world be?
A part of his success was his death. It's a strange thing to say, but people don't kill people too often who aren't about anything.
In April of '68, Nelson Johnson was a student at North Carolina A&T and was organizing a group to meet Dr. King at the airport that day.
We were going to cheer him into Greensboro. He was coming to speak on behalf of Dr. Reginald Hawkins out of Charlotte, who was running for the governor.
Coming to speak at Trinity AME Zion Church on Florida Street.
And I grew up in a neighborhood where his name was spoken on a constant basis.
Where Darren Mitchell is now the pastor.
That sealed the deal for me. And that at 9 years old, I knew what my life's work would be.
Pastor Mitchell wasn't born yet when Dr. King died, but he felt his influence.
Imitatio Martinus. Everyone wanted to imitate Martin, to have his cadence, to have his tempo, to be able to have what I would call his swag and suave.
It was like a big family, really.
Vicki Kilimanjaro and her husband were introduced to that magic years earlier.
When I first met him, it was when he spoke at Bennett College.
That was 1958.
My husband was on the committee that brought him here. Okay. And we wouldn't have missed it for anything in the world.
Vicki and John Kilimanjaro spent intimate time with Dr. King on that trip at the home in which he stayed.
I was thinking that I was, as my husband would say, in high cotton.
They continued to be part of the movement Dr. King led, including the March on Washington in August of 1963.
And we just saw buses coming from east, west, north, south, more buses and tail to tail, more buses than I've ever seen, bumper to bumper.
The Kilimanjaros watched the speech from about this spot on the south side of the Capitol Mall's reflecting pool. But to those who followed Dr. King closely, it soon became clear that he had an influence far beyond giving gripping speeches.
Sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners.
But Martin King had more than a dream. He had a social critique, but he also had a plan. And when he was shot down in Memphis, he was working on that plan.
Well, and I don't think most people even understand that. I think they hear his great rhetorical skills and don't understand that he was extremely tactful and strategic.
And he was putting those skills to use in Memphis the day he was due to speak in Greensboro.
I think the fact that he stayed to march with garbage workers showed his commitment to the least of these.
A commitment cut down in the dusk of a spring day in Memphis.
I was near Lewisburg when Hubert Humphrey came on the radio, and he said that Martin Luther King was dead. And my older sister was screaming, how could they do this to this man?
So this is your front page right after Dr. King was killed.
That's right.
For nearly 60 years, Vicki Kilimanjaro and her husband John have published The Carolina Peacemaker. And when they got the news of Dr. King's death, John Kilimanjaro knew he had to write a column with enormous questions.
Americans must learn to live together as brothers, lest we all die together as fools.
I may not get there with you.
We may not have fulfilled that legacy to the heights Dr. King would have led us to.
That we as a people will get to the promised land.
If he had lived, I think the work of the Poor People's Campaign, as he envisioned it, and as I have come to understand it, would have had profound influence on the nation.
I really think he would have pushed all of us to be our best. I think that's the genius of him. That's the legacy that I think he leaves.
Mine eyes have seen the glory